Oh, hey. Hi. How's it going? Today is Monday, June 21st, 2021. Welcome, everybody. My name is Scott Allison. This is Beyond 280. This is the show where we go beyond the 280 characters of Twitter and get to know the people behind the avatars, get to know the trends and the weird things that go on, the weird hashtags that happen. And Grim just got a beer, so that's good. That's really good. I don't have a beer. I have water. I've just got a big old glass of water here. But thanks for making me jealous there, Grim. I appreciate it. It's Monday. So, yeah, I don't normally have beers on Monday, but sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. So, how's everybody doing today? I have a confession to make. Not so much a confession, just kind of an observation, really. I've really come to realize that Twitter is a game changer. It's a game changer. It's a lifesaver. Even it's just amazing. I mean, how else would I have ever known that today, Monday, June 21st, 2021, is National Selfie Day? How have I managed to miss out on this day for however many years it's been going on? How have I managed to miss? I've somehow managed to miss this day. I mean, it's an important national day of literally reflection, and I'm missing it. And I'm totally missing it every year. But not anymore. Not anymore. Thank you, Twitter. Thank you so much, Twitter, because now I know that it is National Selfie Day. That's right. And if you were to believe Paris Hilton, her and Britney Spears actually invented the selfie. I did not know this. These are the things that I would not have known had it not been for Twitter. Seriously. I mean, this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. I mean, let's look at what Daw Bell here has. So it looks like some K-pop, right? Yeah, so K-pop selfies, sure. We've got MTV showing off their selfies with Ariana Grande and somebody, Wonho and Troy's, and I don't know any of these people. We've got Grey's Anatomy even doing selfies. Is that even still a show? Is that show still on? I've never seen a single episode of Grey's Anatomy. I know. Maybe that's something else Twitter should remind me of. This is actually kind of adorable here. So, this adorable 1920s couple clearly perfected the art of the mirror selfie long before any of us gave it a shot. Look how awesome that is. That may be the coolest selfie of all time. And then we've got Mr. Pierce Brosnan here and that guy off to his left. I always forget his name. And that other guy that was in the Marvel movies, the Thor movies, off to his right. Yeah. So National Selfie Day. The Muppets even got in on the act doing their selfies. And somebody named Khloe Kardashian. Oh, this is an ad. Sorry, my bad. I thought this was National Selfie Day. Spice Girls get on the act. This is great. Again, how did I not know about this? I mean, I think we've all taken selfies of some sort, right? But there's an actual day for it now. There's an actual day for it. What an amazing country we live in that we can have National Selfie Day. I mean that seriously. I'm freedom rings. Freedom rings. So anyways, enough with that crap. Who needs that crap? So, as you know, my show really focuses on Twitter. And so at the end of the day, it's very difficult to plan for such a show because things move so fast on Twitter. A trend will pop up and within hours it's gone. I mean, it could be a really interesting trend, right? It could be an interesting hashtag that leads you down a rabbit hole of interesting things and people and Twitter things. And that's kind of a problem with creating content around Twitter, because then you kind of, unless you're doing this full time, you're going to miss out on some stuff. Or what was kind of awesome this morning is no longer awesome this afternoon. Or what was, trending this morning is completely gone from the public sphere this afternoon. So it makes it very, very, very difficult to plan for a show like this, especially when I have a 9-to-5 job. My corporate overlords keep me busy. And it's not really 9 to 5, by the way. I've got kind of flexible hours. That's neither here nor there. So yeah, like I was saying, so the content is very difficult to plan for. But then there's content that kind of will stick around, but you don't know it sticks around. And this is a good example of that. So who here, before I do that, let's switch. Who here has ever heard of Sheldon Whitehouse? I consider myself fairly politically savvy. I kind of trying to keep up with what's going on in the world of U.S. politics. And Sheldon Whitehouse was trending this morning. And I was like, who the frack is Sheldon Whitehouse? Well, and unless you're from Rhode Island, you probably don't know that name, or maybe you've heard it like in some sort of confirmation hearing or whatever. He's a senator. He's a senator from Rhode Island. That massive state up in the Northeast. That Houston could pretty much swallow. The entire city of Houston could almost swallow all of Rhode Island. Anyways, neither here nor there. So he's a U.S. senator from the great state of Rhode Island. And, well, let's just see what is going on with Mr. Sheldon here. So let's watch this video, shall we?
Okay. A little close. Okay. Back in 2017, you had expressed concerns about the membership of the all-white Bailey's Beach Club, said that you hoped it would become more diverse. Now, your family's been members. Your wife is one of the largest shareholders. Has there been any traction in that? Are there any minority members of the club now?
We want to know.
I think the people who are running the place are still working on that, and I'm sorry it hasn't happened yet.
Do you have concerns in 2021? I mean, obviously, it's been 4 years. You had remarks on the floor following the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd saying, hoping to root out systemic racism in the country.
Yep.
Your thoughts on an elite, all-white, wealthy club, again, in this day and age? Should these clubs continue to exist?
It's a long tradition in Rhode Island, and there are many of them, and I think we just need to work our way through the issues.
Did you hear that? All white clubs is a long-standing tradition in Rhode Island. Wow. Holy crap. That is some racist ass stuff right there. That's just that's like the epitome of racist, right? Having an all-white club. So it's a beach club. So Sheldon Whitehouse, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, his wife and their families have been members of an all-white private beach club for decades. For decades. And he's saying here, well, it's a tradition. It's a tradition. We don't need no people of color here. This is a tradition. It's a beach club for us, the white folks. So as you can imagine, it didn't take long for Twitter to explode. Right? All these reactions about this Republican that from the oh dear, that's problematic. Apparently he's a Democrat. That's very interesting. Who would have thought? So Kenneth Vogel here, who posted the original story, posted another interesting article here. In 2006, during his first successful campaign for Senate, he reportedly promised to end his membership in the all-white Bailey's Beach Club in Newport, Rhode Island. All white. Instead, his ownership with his wife, he consolidated his ownership with his wife and remained a member. So 2006, that's 15 years ago. So you even go back a little bit further and you go, this is one lifetime member or lifelong member said about this in 2003, said that, the membership there's like, yeah, Jewish, sure, yeah, blacks, no, not so much. This Democrat from Rhode Island. Now, what's interesting about this is that there was a lot of backlash. There was a ton of backlash from the left on this initially, because there were a lot of people that said, oh, another Republican being all racist. God darn it, those darn Republicans being racist again. And then they had to delete their tweets because guess what? Turns out the guy's a Democrat. He's a lifelong Democrat. Yeah, a white club. He's been a member of that club for decades. Imagine that. That's just so amazing to me. So yeah, so I could not capture any tweets where people were saying, "Oh, it's a Republican." Now on the right, absolutely, this has been blowing up all over the place all day long. People going, this is hypocrisy at its finest, because this is a guy who basically has, tried to denounce racism and discrimination and that sort of thing. So Guy Benson makes a good point. So Ellie Kemper had to issue a groveling apology because she won a pageant crown in 1999 from a group that was segregated decades prior. So she had to issue an apology because she accepted an award from an organization that was segregated many, many, many years ago. But Sheldon Whitehouse currently belongs to a club that is still all white, and even promised to quit years ago. And his response is, it's a tradition. This is the left, people. This is the left. Now, granted, this is out and out racism, right? Most of the time on the left, the racism is soft racism. It's implied, but they never come out and say stuff or do things that might, out themselves as racist. Like be members of an all-white club. This is too funny. Lisa Booth goes on to say, as a member of a whites-only beach club, that Sheldon Whitehouse is a member of whites-only beach club. Oh, yeah, and the governor of Virginia either wore blackface or a Ku Klux Klan robe. And Joe Biden said he didn't want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle. But Democrats want to lecture about racism in America. That's absolutely right. So somebody named Jewish Deplorable also, tweeted this out. Well, there's a bunch of info. So here's Politibunny, one of the editors at Twitchy.com. If you haven't seen Twitchy.com, it's awesome. Yeah, I typically don't retweet myself, but since Sheldon Whitehouse is trending, fuck it. So she goes on and makes the same statements that a previous tweeter had said. Yep, I got a governor who admitted wearing blackface, a senator, whites-only club, a president said if black people didn't vote for him, they ain't black. Tell me again which party has an issue with racism? We can't even, we got to remember about Robert Byrd, a leader in the Ku Klux Klan. Democrat, lifelong Democrat, and loved, a lifelong beloved Democrat as well. Interesting. Eric Erickson says if Sheldon Whitehouse had an R next to his name, Republican, the lead story of every news outlet would be his membership in an all-white club. Yeah, absolutely. And there's no doubt in my mind that that's the case here. The attention Sheldon Whitehouse is a reminder that Democrats also never complain about a tiny state like Rhode Island having 2 senators. I know what he's saying here, RB Pundit. That comes up quite frequently, actually. We need, California only gets 2, senators. Why does Rhode Island get 2 senators? Well, actually, they usually pick on like Wisconsin or Wyoming. Usually it's Wyoming. So why they get 2 senators? They've only got like 500,000 people. We've got 30 million. Because that's not the way things work, people. Learn some civics. Anyways. Jewish Deplorable tweeted again. Not a single elected Democrat has tweeted about Senator Sheldon Whitehouse being the largest stakeholder. Oh, so it comes out that not only is he a member of this all-whites beach club, that he is the largest stakeholder in the all-white club. I'm betting 97% of folks outraged about Sheldon Whitehouse's beach club belong to churches or other religious orders that aren't integrated in 2021. What? 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 That's just ignorant. So I'm not going to even address that. So Politibunny again. She observed this morning as I did. Witnessing resistors claim Whitehouse is a Republican because they are that misinformed and biased that any racist prick must be a Republican. You'd think they would take a moment to learn from this whole Sheldon Whitehouse being racist as fuck thing, but no. No, of course not. Of course not. The narrative. There is only the narrative in this situation. And it's irritating as all get out. It's absolutely irritating as all get out. So what did the media have to say about this? That's the thing I'm interested in because, to be quite honest, I only learned this on Twitter. Right? Because I started the show saying, man, I learned so much from Twitter. Twitter is a game changer. It's a lifesaver. I learned so much on Twitter. National Selfie Day. Who knew? Did you know? Grim, did you know there was National Selfie Day? You probably didn't because you're not really on Twitter a whole lot. So if you were, you would have known that. And then you would have also known about Sheldon, Mr. Sheldon Whitehouse. Because guess what? On the media... crickets on this. I wonder why. Crickets. So if I go onto CNN and I search Sheldon Whitehouse, the only story listed there, or the most recent story is from 6 days ago. Democrats led by Cortez and Masto seek answers from citizenship and immigration service on DACA delays. So for some reason, Sheldon Whitehouse is mentioned in there. Senate bipartisan infrastructure plan, June 14th. I believe that's Sheldon Whitehouse right there. Yeah, so again, this is in chronological order. There is nothing about this story here on CNN. How about CBS News? There are 76 results for Sheldon Whitehouse on CBS News. This isn't in any particular order, but something about Kavanaugh. Senator accuses FBI of avoiding questions from lawmakers. I think that's no, that's not him. I'm seeing quite literally nothing about Mr. Whitehouse belonging to an all-white beach club. Interesting. Surely. Wait a second. So surely MSNBC will have covered this, right? So let's look. They have a weird search engine on MSNBC. You type in a search and it throws like 5 different ads at you. So let's go look. We're sorting by date, as you can see here. So let's go look. Starting. Here's the actual non-ads. So sorted by date. The last story was from 4 days ago, and then there was another one from 5 days ago. I see nothing here. Where's the story on Sheldon Whitehouse being a flaming racist? Where is it? Where is it? Huh. Interesting. See, I wouldn't have, if I was an average Joe and I'm looking at the media, I would have never known about this dude. Unless, of course, I went over to Fox News. Now, even Fox News, I on the front page, I couldn't find anything for this. But to their credit, in their politics section, there it is, 5 hours ago. Sheldon Whitehouse doesn't denounce all-white beach club his family belongs to. Why do you think that is? Let's look at, actually, just for grins, let's go look at the politics page and see. Actually, we'll do it from here. So here's the politics page. Support for voter ID. Ah, there it is. Yeah, so it's on the front page of the politics page. I guarantee if Sheldon Whitehouse was a Republican, or if Sheldon Whitehouse was from a red state, this would be front page news everywhere. Yeah, anybody disagree with that? This would be front page everywhere. It doesn't fit the narrative, people. It doesn't fit the narrative. And this is something I highlight quite often, is this media bias. And people say, oh, there's no media bias. Clearly, this is a great example of media bias. Now, not to mention on any of the major networks, news sites about this story, except for Fox News. Now, granted, I don't watch Fox News. I just don't. I'm not interested in Fox News. I think they also have an agenda. I think they all do, to be quite honest. But it took Twitter, of all things, to teach me today that Sheldon Whitehouse is a racist and belongs to an all-white beach club. And has for decades. This is awesome. This is awesome. I love this sort of stuff. This sort of stuff just makes me all giddy inside. I'm so happy I got to see that today. So it appears also today, something else that's been trending. So I have a team here in the Houston area, an NBA team called the Houston Rockets. You may have heard of them. They won a couple championships in the 90s with Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler. And, well, Clyde was part of the second team that won, but neither here nor there. There was back-to-back championships. Okay, Jordan wasn't around. He was retired during that time frame. But a lot of people think that, a lot of pundits think that the Rockets had a really good shot in the 90s to beat the Bulls with those two teams that they had in the mid-90s, even with Michael Jordan. But that's neither here nor there. Recent history of the Houston Rockets has been, well, mixed. So they've gotten close a few times to the Western Conference Finals and to the finals. And they put together a pretty good roster recently. James Harden, one of the most prolific scorers in basketball today, well, just an amazing player. Regardless of what you think about his play style, whatever, you got to admit the dude he can game, he can play. And as the Rockets started to kind of dismantle a little bit, the whole team just dismantled. Completely dismantled this past year. First it was the coach, Russell Westbrook, and then a couple other players got traded, whatever, and then James Harden left. And he went to the Brooklyn Nets to go be with KD, and his good friend, good friend KD. That's fine, I get that. But of course they got knocked out this last round. So I say all of that because the Rockets have stunk since all of this has gone. I mean, they've been terrible. They are bottom feeders. It's embarrassing, to be quite honest, to admit I'm a Rockets fan. Well, and this year I kind of haven't been, so I really haven't watched anything. And really, in more recent times, kind of lost interest in the NBA anyway. Just gotten a little bit woke for my taste, but beyond that, I haven't really lost. I mean, I haven't really, had a whole bunch of interest in the NBA, but thank you, Twitter. Thank you so much, Twitter. I'm so happy. Again, Twitter taught me something today. That today, there's no NBA. What? Polo Dolo says, ain't no NBA on today. I'm sick as fuck. Uh-oh. There's really no NBA games tonight? I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with my life. There's no NBA games tonight means sleep at a decent hour. I love Twitter. No NBA plays today, but go follow these people and Hoopball Gaming to get your fix. You know, people are freaking out about this. First day with no NBA games since the playoffs started. Boo! How did that happen anyways? That's a weird scheduling thing. So the playoffs are, I think we're on the eve of the Western and Eastern Conference Finals in the NBA. And for whatever reason, the way the schedule worked out, Monday today, 0 games, and people are not happy about it. I'm certain this is unprecedented in NBA history. Perhaps the first NBA Finals had fewer players with no NBA Finals experience. I don't know what that even means. Today is everyone's chance to play Major League Baseball. Don't got to study, nothing else. MLB takedown night once again. What was that? We just bought my day pad rolling with the squad on for MLB with no NBA today. All right, so people are switching to watch some baseball today. Okay, that's good. No NBA, no NBA, no NBA. Just people just flipping out over this. This is why I love Twitter. These are the reasons why I love Twitter. I learned so much. I had no clue that today was an NBA-less day. Today, June 21st, 2021. And finally, tonight, I sound like a 2020 host. And finally, tonight, COVID-19. I said it. The disease that shall not be named. The virus that shall not be named. Some people have been calling it Voldemort. But I'm going to take a stand. I'm calling it what it is. COVID-19, also known as the Wuhan virus. That's not racist. That's where it originated. Fight me. Yeah, the COVID-19 pandemic. So I haven't really talked a lot about this. I've kind of brought it up here and there. And somebody by the name of Zuby, he's a recording artist and a social commentator, if you will. He pointed out something pretty interesting today. Just a reminder to everybody out there, showing a chart that the COVID-19 death rates in U.S. by age. So this is the case fatality rate among patients with confirmed age. So this is a graph that shows basically, and by the way, the source of this is from CDC. That basically shows what the fatality rate is amongst different age groups. So what we really want to hone in on here, why he's posting this, is number one, the elderly are extremely susceptible to this disease. But on the other end of the spectrum, children are not. In fact, it's and it's not going to show up here on this chart, but ages 0 through 19 it would be a statistical anomaly if somebody died from COVID at that age. It's so minuscule that they didn't even, if they had added some decimal points here, it would have shown up on the graph, but they didn't add one decimal point. So 0% of children, basically the ages 0 through 19, who have contracted the virus have died from it. It's insignificant number of people. Well, no death is insignificant. Let's put it that way. But it's an insignificant number of children that have from a statistical standpoint, have died from this disease. And I bring that up because I've been saying this for, ever since this even came up back in December and January, but really started speaking out about this when the lockdown started occurring, when they started shutting everything down. This is something we knew early on in the pandemic, that children, number one, didn't get it at the same rate as adults and the elderly. And number two, didn't die from it. And so what did we do as a government, as a nation, as a world? What did we do? despite everything that we knew. We devastated our children. Completely devastated our children. We devastated their health. We devastated their mental health. We devastated their lives. We disrupted their lives. We disrupted their development. Because we decided as a society, as a worldwide society, mind you, that we would take an approach to a pandemic that nobody had ever taken before. That we would ask healthy people to stay home. That we would quarantine healthy people for the first time in history. Hey, if you're healthy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're healthy, stay home. Why? That makes no sense. It makes no sense. The CDC's own guidance on this early on in the pandemic was to create green zones and protect the people that are most susceptible. The elderly and the people that have pre-existing conditions, diabetes, any kind of, respiratory issues, heart issues. Protect them. Set up green zones for these people and protect them, and let the rest of us, the people that are healthy and our children, to be free and to live as normal of a life as they could. Now, sure, I'm all for precautions. I don't mind the hand sanitizers everywhere. I don't mind some of the social distancing stuff. But, the masks and the shutting down of everything. Yeah. And I bring all this up because, Zuby made a good point in this tweet, just a reminder. Chicago, WBEZ in Chicago released a story. The headline reads, "In pandemic's wake, numbers tell of a story of a devastating year for many Chicago students." A WBEZ analysis shows that Fs, the grade Fs, spiked and attendance plummeted primarily at high schools serving mostly low-income students. At the height of the pandemic, even when her school discouraged it, Chicago public high school teacher Anna Lane traveled to her students' homes to stand on porches and listen to their struggles. Using money she helped raise through a mutual aid fund, she often brought groceries or cash assistance to their families so their families could pay bills. This woman goes out of her way to help these people because the system, the government, at all levels, not only in Chicago and Illinois and the United States, but in the world, has failed our children. Research shows that one F in freshman or sophomore year can doom a student's chances of making it to graduation. So imagine you are a student in the Chicago area and the lockdowns are severe. It's 2020. You're a freshman in high school. And suddenly you are thrust into a situation you've never been in before, especially if you're low income. And you're having to do everything virtually. Nobody knows how to do this. The teachers sure don't. And now you're being told you still got to do all this work. But I can't help you one-on-one like I used to be able to, says the teacher. Imagine what that does to a kid. The stresses of high school are already high. The stresses of middle school and even in elementary school are already high. And now we're asking our kids, or in Chicago they asked their kids, yeah, you're gonna have to suck it up, and just we're gonna expect you to do well, despite the fact that we don't know what we're doing. We've never done this before. We as a society decided to lock down healthy people, and now you're going to suffer for it. So as a result, 20% of all grades in Chicagoland are Fs. So here's just some really shocking numbers. Now listen, I'm not from Chicago. I don't know the areas very well, but let me just mention this. So Hirsch High School, which is in the greater Grand Crossing area, in quarter three, 39% of the grades were Fs. 39% of the given grades were Fs. Austin CCA High School in the Austin area, that's Austin and Chicago area, 37%. Social Justice High School at South Lawndale, 32%. The Air Force Academy High School in Armour Square, 30%. This is devastating. This is absolutely devastating and completely preventable. So I understand part of this. I understand that there was a lot of fear, a lot of unknowns. A lot of people were just, I don't know what's going on. Cool. I get that. But even in Texas, which is, handled this a little bit differently than a lot of states, we locked down, the second semester of the 2019-2020 school year. But what some school districts did, which I thought was really, really interesting and really kind of gutsy. So the school district that I'm in, they basically said, look, for the 2021 school year, the 2020-2021 school year, we're going to give you, the parents, and your students a choice. So they had run through this online program, the virtual schooling, if you will, and found that it really wasn't that great. Even with all the electronics and the resources and everything you need to do this, it really didn't the numbers didn't bear out that it was doing well. So what they basically allowed for people to do was choose. Do you want to come to the school, and do you want to or do you want to stay at home and be online? So they basically took the school district and split it, virtual and on premise. My students, my children, were super excited to go back to school. They hated online classes. They hated it. And it wasn't because of the social aspect in some cases. Like my middle son, he's kind of, does his own thing. He beats to his own drum. So the social thing wasn't that big a deal to him. But my younger son absolutely was a big deal to him. One second. Oops, I had a puppy run in here. So, anyways, they split the online and the virtual to begin the 2020 and 2021 school year. And so my kids, jumped at that chance, absolutely. But there were a lot of parents that were still terrified. Thank you, media. They were terrified of the COVID-19 pandemic with no real reason. And I'm bringing this up again. The fatality rate 0 through 19 is statistically minuscule. It was safe. It was absolutely safe. And how do I know it was safe? Because my kids went to school Yeah, they social distance. Yeah, they had to wear a mask all day. There's hand sanitizer just coming out of everybody's pores. But at the end of the day, nobody got sick. Some people got sick, but nobody died. And then, towards the middle of the school year, the school district said, you know what? If you are an online student, a virtual student, and you're struggling, we are now asking that you come on campus. And that was a large number of students. Because you can't teach younger, especially younger, but it's very difficult to teach these kids effectively without being there in person. And so they suffered as a result. There's this whole thing with the pandemic, just so destructive. There's more. There's more. So here's some more staggering statistics. Annual deaths among children in the United States. So this was COVID data is for the 52 weeks ending in April 10th of this year. Other data is for 2018. So they basically took 2018 data and superimposed COVID data on top of it. So per 100,000, this is the deaths among children. The number one in up to 4 years of age is drowning. It's not even close. Vehicle accidents 2.3%, homicide 2.2%. That blows my mind, by the way. Cancer, cardiovascular disease, flu is more deadly. Suffocation, just plain old suffocation. COVID 0.2%. Let's bump that up. Let's go 5 to 14 years old. The number one, again, not even close, is cancer. Vehicle accidents, suicide is 1.5%. That breaks my heart. Homicide, drowning, flu, 0.3%. COVID, 0.2%. Suffocation, 0.2%. COVID doesn't kill kids. And yet, we devastated our kids' mental health. We devastated their futures. We mortgaged their futures to because we thought we were keeping them safe, even though the data didn't bear that out. I found a really interesting article that I want to share with you, and if you get a chance, you need to go search this article out, because it was like looking in a crystal ball. So the Human Rights Watch group, they have a website, hrw.org, released an article, and the headline reads, COVID-19's devastating impact on children. And the subheadline says, government should mitigate harm and protect the most vulnerable. Really powerful stuff. It basically talked about how many how many kids were out of school, the widespread job and income loss, and the economic insecurity that our response caused. Increased rates of child labor and sexual exploitation, teenage pregnancy, child marriage. The stresses on families has gone up. The increasing incidence of domestic violence that our children, they're not my children, but lots of children had to witness through all of this. The risks posed by the COVID-19 crisis to children are enormous, said Joe Becker, Children's Rights Advocacy Director at Human Rights Watch. Governments need to act urgently to protect children during the pandemic, also to consider how their decisions now will best uphold children's rights after the crisis ends. For many children, the COVID-19 crisis will mean limited or no education. More than 91% of the world's students were out of school at the time of the writing of this article. 91%. And there's some other interesting tidbits here. The crisis has exposed vast disparities in countries' emergency preparedness, internet access for children, and availability of learning materials. Although much focus has turned to online learning platforms, many public schools are not set up to use them or do not have the technology and equipment to provide online teaching. Nearly half of the world has no internet access. So this is obviously a broader topic, or a broader audience for this particular article. I was talking worldwide. And you got the added family stresses, job loss, isolation, excessive confinement, and anxieties over health and finances heighten the risk of violence in the home, including both between partners and by caregivers against their children. I know this to be true. So what's interesting about this article is that it was written on April 9th of 2020. The Human Rights Watch group, which by all accounts is a leftist organization, but they are 1,000% right here. We forgot our children. We forgot our children, and amongst the with the COVID-19 response, irresponsible response of our governments and our so-called leaders. Lockdowns did not do anything to slow the spread, and all it did was damage our children. And you can fight me on that. You can absolutely fight me on that. Guys, I'm going to call it a night. I've got lots of things going on. I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me. If you're watching the replay, please, do hit subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell so that you're reminded when I do go live, because while I do go live on Mondays and Wednesdays, at this time, 5 p.m. Central, I'm also going to be throwing in some other tidbits. I've got some new videos coming out in the coming weeks, as well as potentially some interviews that I want to get back to doing more interviews with Twitter users so we can get to know the people behind the avatars, maybe, show a little bit of empathy in the world. As always, you can always support me by just buying me a coffee at Beyond 280 on Buy Me a Coffee's website. I don't, I do this for free because I enjoy it so much. I enjoy sitting here and just kind of foaming at the mouth and vomiting at, words out of my mouth and who knows what else. I really enjoy this. And so I all the expenses come out of my pocket, and I don't care. But if you want to support me, feel free. It's right there. And finally, last but not least, I'm a member of what's called the Creators Guild. Now, the Creators Guild, you're like, well, that sounds kind of like a cult. Well, it feels a little bit like a cult sometimes. So the Creators Guild is a worldwide group of people that are creators. Some of them are, streaming games. Some of them are podcasters. Some people are doing tech reviews, and some people are, doing in real life streaming or IRL streaming or mobile streaming. And we just get together as a group and share ideas, share our content with each other, get feedback, that sort of thing. It's a wonderful group of people, and you can get more information by checking out the Creators Guild at creatorsguild.app, where you'll also find the Creators Toolkit. This is a toolkit that will help you get started if you're interested in content creating, you want to get started somehow, or if you just want to brush up on your skills. That's where you go. It's all free. And yeah, come hang out with us and ask us questions and everything, and we would love to have you. All of that, I am going to take off. Have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful rest of your Monday. I know it's Monday. Somebody's got a case of the Mondays. But I will talk to you later. Have a great day.